It is 34 days till the man burns, and today we're talking about how to avoid camp drama. No one wants drama in their camp at Burning Man, and it's better to avoid it than have to try and deal with it. So the first thing you can do before you even head off to Burning Man is to set some ground rules for your camp. And it shouldn't be the be-all and end-all. It's, you're not writing these things in stone. It's not like the 10 Commandments. They can change, you'll figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you while you're there. And you'll probably come up with other camp rules while you're there that you'll only, figure out when you're in that situation. Obviously, the larger your camp is, the harder it's going to be to get everyone to agree on a set of ground rules. It's basically a way to figure out how can we all coexist together in this camp without driving each other crazy. One of the rules my camp has is about quiet time. When is it quiet time in camp? Because when people are running on different schedules and having different kinds of burn experiences, you can end up with one campmate that's partying while everyone else is trying to sleep. So we have a majority rule where if the majority of people in the camp are sleeping, then noise has to be kept to a reasonable level. And if most of the people in the camp are awake, then they can make as much noise as they want. And having that as a camp ground rule just means that, if there's one person sleeping and everyone else is making loads of noise, the person that's sleeping is not going to be too annoyed with everyone else for making noise because it's part of the ground rules of the camp. It's definitely a good idea to have ground rules if you're in the kind of camp where people are trying to have very different experiences, especially if there's a nighttime, daytime shift between them. Some of them are night creatures, some of them are day creatures. Then you'll probably want some ground rules just to determine how you're going to coexist and not drive each other crazy. A lack of sleep in the desert can do strange things to people. So something that theme camps really got right was having responsibilities laid out for all the members of the camp. Instead of expecting everyone in the camp to just pitch in and do their fair share of work, they have it all laid out. Most camps have experienced the lazy burner, the one that, heads off before setup's over, disappears during teardown. They're never there when it comes to cooking or trying to clean up the camp or anything like that. They mysteriously disappear and return just in time for the reward of that happening, especially at meal times. So even if you think, of course everyone in my camp is going to pitch in and do their fair share, we're not going to have a lazy burner in our camp. There is a chance that you will, and that can cause some tensions between your campmates. So you might not want to set up a full-on schedule and rota of exactly who's doing what and when. You might want to just have, again, some ground rules on it and be like, okay, everyone is going to participate in setup and tear down and moot sweeping. And, maybe every member in the camp is responsible for producing one meal. Whatever kind of responsibilities you have to just keep your camp running smoothly, then, consider divvying those up a bit. Make sure you don't end up with just that one poor campmate, cooking every single meal, unless, of course, that is what they want to be doing. Some people just love to cook. If they like that, let them do it. Why not? I've done a whole other video and post on choosing your campmates because I do think that it's a very important thing when you're going to Burning Man. You really want to make sure that you all gel and connect and, aren't going to drive each other crazy. But sometimes it happens that you will end up with a campmate that maybe you don't know too well. And sometimes it can end up being a disaster where they just kind of don't mesh with the rest of the camp. Maybe they end up being very high maintenance. Maybe they just don't adjust very well to Burning Man and they're, struggling a bit and a bit overwhelmed. So if you do have a potential new campmate, it is worth trying to have a meet-up beforehand. That way you can kind of get the feel of each other, see if you think they'll actually fit into your camp and, get on with everyone. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of times where strangers end up camping together and they just have an amazing time. So, don't be adverse to having newbies join your group. But if you can have at least some form of communication with them beforehand and kind of get to know each other a bit, it's probably going to just let you know if there's anything that you should potentially be a bit concerned about with them joining your camp. And of course, it's going to be nicer for the newbie because they will feel like they kind of already know the people that they're meeting a bit. It's not like being dropped in a strange place with strange people and, that can be quite overwhelming. Hanging out and spending time with your campmates can really kind of help everyone feel like a team, like we're all together, we're a group of friends doing this together. And that can be extra important if you are camping with newbies or people that you maybe don't know so well. It's like an opportunity to, hang out together and get to know each other a bit. And again, it doesn't have to be anything set in stone. You probably don't want to be like, okay, every night everyone has to be back for the evening meal so that we can all hang out together. Chances are not everyone is going to want to be back for the evening meal every night. But it is nice to have some time to hang out together. So maybe have one day or one night where you say, okay, we're all gonna like have a meal together, everyone's gonna be back at camp, we're gonna have a meal, or we're gonna hang out for a couple of hours and then we're gonna go out on an adventure together. And obviously don't try and force all of your campmates to do it. If someone doesn't want to do it, like let them do their own thing. But it is a nice way to make sure everyone is feeling included. Like I say, especially if you have newbies, or if you are a group that is predominantly couples and you maybe have like one person that is not with their partner, then they might end up feeling a little bit left out of the camp. If you do have newbies in your camp, and I don't necessarily mean first timers, I mean, they just haven't camped with you before, then try and make them feel included. Some people are shy or introverted, or they just feel a bit awkward, and they might feel a little intimidated to really like introduce themselves or get to know the group and get involved with things. So if you do have newbies, try and make sure you say hi to them, introduce yourself. They seem to be kind of like hiding away a bit. Then, invite them out, be like, oh, hey, we're all going to go and do this. Do you want to come? Or, oh, we're going to have lunch, or we're just hanging out, like, come and join us. Hopefully it'll be enough to just like bring them out of their shell a bit and get them to feel a little bit more relaxed and connecting with people. There are quite a few people that go to Burning Man on their own, and something that does seem to pop up quite frequently is they say, they just didn't connect with the camp. They felt very awkward. They felt like no one really like made an effort to get to know them, and they were feeling shy or awkward, so they didn't make an effort. And then they just ended up feeling very like outside and disconnected while they were there. It doesn't take long to just go and say hi to someone and introduce yourself if they are part of the same camp as you and you don't know them yet. And it can go a long way to helping make that person feel included. Being considerate to everyone in your camp, it can be a bit of a tricky one, just because of the nature of Burning Man. Everyone's there for their own burn, everyone's there for their own experience. Everyone wants to express themselves freely, everyone wants to, do their own thing when they want to do it, immediacy and all that. And sometimes it can come at the expense of impacting other people's burns, or, just being considerate to other people. I think it's especially important in your camp to be considerate of each other. If your whole camp is asleep and you've been out partying and you drag a load of people back with you to carry on the party, it's not really considerate to all of the rest of your camp that are trying to sleep. Especially if that party is going to be going on for hours and hours. And there's plenty of other places at Burning Man that you could take all that noise. If you come back and everyone's asleep, you could go to one of these people you have brought back, one of their camps. You could head off to a theme camp. There's other places you could do that instead of kind of being inconsiderate to the people you're camping with. Don't take your campmate's stuff without asking. Don't empty the cooler and fill it up with beer because you'd rather drink beer than have food. Don't use up all of one of your camp's resources unnecessarily because you feel like your needs are somehow greater than the rest of the group's. Be considerate. And I'm not saying that you should spend your entire week tiptoeing around, making sure you're being super considerate to everyone around you. But just having like a basic level of consideration for the people that you're camping with is going to help avoid camp tensions and camp drama. It's going to make your camp like a much nicer place to be. One thing I have noticed about camp drama is it kind of impacts everyone differently. Something that might make me absolutely crazy might not bother someone else at all, or it might, bother them, but a minute later they're like, okay, that thing's happened, like it's time to just let that go, it's not that important. I think it's important to know when to let things go, or when it's best to just like quietly fume about that and not let it negatively impact other people around you that maybe aren't as frustrated by it as you. Because if something's happened and it bothers me and it's not bothering my campmates, if I start talking about it all the time and ranting and being like, this is so out of order, I can't believe this person has done this, now it is starting to impact them more. It is going to start to bother them more because I am creating that. I'm not letting them let it go. I'm creating more drama around because now they have to listen to me be annoyed about it. And there might be things where you're so furious you do just need to kind of get that out. And if that happens, grab your favorite campmate, head out to the deep player, have a good old rant, just let it all out of your system, and, then let it go. Don't let it be something that consumes you all week and ruins your time at Burning Man. Don't let it be something where you're ruining other people's time at Burning Man because you just can't let this thing go. I'm also not saying to completely ignore things that do frustrate you. If you feel like a campmate has done something and it's annoyed you, get that out in the open. Tell them that they have done something that has upset you in some way, and, just have a discussion about it. And hopefully you'll be able to clear the air that way. But don't dwell on it. If you were the only one that it really seems to have impacted negatively, if you're the only one that is emotional about it, then consider whether, spending your time kind of going on about it to your campmates is really helping the situation in any way. And whether maybe just speaking to the offender is actually a better way to deal with things, or whether to just let it go completely because it is something that's happened that has impacted your burn more than enough. So I hope this is helpful, guys. I hope that none of you end up having any camp drama. I hope you all manage to avoid it entirely. And if you have any tips for how you guys avoid drama, let us know in the comments below. And if you see me at Burning Man this year, feel free to come and say hi to me. Bye, guys.